Hello everybody, it's Kara from Wild Book Garden, and today I am here with my second quarter of most anticipated releases for 2022. So I'm going to be doing these in the same format because you guys seemed okay with it, and it certainly was a lot easier for me. So we're going to keep doing this. I have my computer over here, which is why I'm going to be looking off camera. I will have all of the books linked in a pinned comment, and what else? So these are going to be for April, May, and June, and the release dates are going to be correct as far as I know them, although those are subject to change. And yeah, I have a lot of books to talk about, all kinds of genres and age ranges as per usual. Okay, so actually starting off with one that I don't think I mentioned in my last video, even though it was, I think, supposed to come out like the end of March maybe. Basically, I'm not exactly sure when this book was supposed to come out because depending on when you look, it already came out last year. I have no idea. So I just want to talk about it. And that is Femina, A New History of the Middle Ages Through the Women Written Out of It by Janina Ramirez, or Hanina, I'm not sure how to pronounce that. This is a nonfiction book about the important women of history, especially in or specifically in like the Middle Ages, what we know as like the Dark Ages, but actually that's a misnomer. I don't really know much beyond like the focus of this book, but that is enough to make me super, super excited. Yeah, I love historical nonfiction about women, so this sounds right up my alley, and I think that was March 31st. Okay, so starting off with the ones that are actually coming out in this quarter, I have on April 5th, Glass Slippers by Leah Cypess. This is the second book in the Sisters Ever After series, which is a series of companion novels that all follow like sisters of like fairy tale characters. Which I think is so cool. I read the first one that came out last year, which was Thornwood, and that was a Sleeping Beauty retelling, and I really loved it. I feel like it got mixed reviews, but I thought it was fantastic and really creative. This one is a Cinderella retelling. We're following our main character, Tirza, and she is like the third wicked stepsister for Cinderella, but she's not actually that wicked. She's actually really nice, and Cinderella knows this, so when Cinderella marries her prince, she allows Tirza to like come with her. I think she works in the palace, but then Cinderella's famous glass slippers go missing, and Tirza was the last one to try them on. And then it seems like as things go on, like they're trying to figure out who stole them, and Tirza ends up finding that maybe her other stepsisters, the wicked stepsisters, maybe they're not so wicked after all. Next I have one that it is listed as coming out at the beginning of April, and that is Tall and Dark by Susanna Roundtree. I mentioned this in, I think, the series book tag for like one that I was really anticipating. This is the first book in a spin-off series, and as I have said, there's like this whole description that does sound very interesting, but the thing that really sold me on this one was the author blurb, which I'm going to read to you again because it is one of my favorite things. Behold, the spin-off series set in the same world as Miss Sharp's Monsters, featuring a young lady who sees memories of the dead, an irritable inventor, a feral ballerina, a sweet and pure himbo, and Vasily Nikolaevich Romanov, who is not having a good afterlife. I never get tired of that. Yeah, so I can't wait. I'm very excited. I did read the first book in the Miss Sharp's Monsters series, which is like the original series that this is a spin-off for, and I really enjoyed it. So I already know that I'm excited about this, and I just love that description. On April 5th, I have Hotel Magnifique by Emily J. Taylor. This is one I've heard good buzz for so far, and this involves a like magical hotel. And it seems like it's going to be very atmospheric. It's a character, I think our main character is trying to rescue her younger sister who goes into this like mysterious hotel. I think this is one that's going to be on a lot of lists, so I won't go into too much detail. That's another thing I should have reminded everyone of at the beginning, is that the amount of detail I have about these books is going to vary widely. And I also have Does My Body Offend You by Myra Cuevas and Marie Marquardt, or Marquardt, and that is on April 5th. This is a contemporary, and it says it's going to focus on the power of friendship, feminism, and standing up for what you believe in, no matter where you come from. It's about like dress codes at school and how different girls will get dress coded based on like body type and things like that, like how body type is related to what is considered acceptable clothing. And I think that sounds really important and really interesting. So one of our main characters is Melina. Her home was destroyed by Hurricane Maria. Her and her mother are stuck in Florida, which is nothing like her beloved Puerto Rico. When she goes to school braless after a bad sunburn and is humiliated by the school administration into covering up, she feels like she has no choice but to comply. And then our other female main character is Ruby McAllister. So she has a reputation as her school's outspoken feminist rebel. But back in Seattle, she lived under her sister's shadow. Now her sister's teaching in underprivileged communities, and she's in a Florida high school, unsure of what to do with her future, or if she's even capable of making a difference in the world. So when Ruby notices the new girl is being forced to cover up her chest, she is not willing to keep quiet about it. Neither Melina nor Ruby expected to be the leaders of the school's dress code rebellion, but the girls will have to face their own insecurities, biases, and privileges, and the ups and downs in their newfound friendship, if they want to stand up for their ideals and ultimately for themselves. So yeah, I just think everything about that sounds really good. It sounds like it's also going to focus on, like the description says, like kind of confronting your own biases. So it sounds like Ruby is maybe going to have to learn to listen to other people rather than just doing what she thinks is best for them. So I think that sounds really good. Then I know that there is discussion over if Beth O'Leary's books are considered like romances or like contemporaries, so I don't know, but on April 12th she has another book coming out called The No Show, and I just read and really loved The Flat Share by this author, like way more than I even expected to, so I'm very excited for this one. And this is about, I think it's about 3 women who end up getting stood up by the same man, but it doesn't go the way that you think. And it sounds like this one is going to have really great friendships between women, which is something I love. And I've just heard that like it ends up being much more thoughtful and emotional than you might think from like kind of the premise. And I think that's one of the reasons why The Flat Share got very mixed reviews, is because it wasn't a cute fluffy rom-com like the marketing and the cover made it seem. Like it actually dealt with quite a few heavy topics. So I'm prepared for that, but I think that's going to be really good. Then on April 12th I have The Romantic Agenda by Claire Kann. This is a romance novel, and it has an asexual main character, which is great. We don't see that a lot, especially in romance. And our main character is named Joy, who's been secretly in love with her best friend Malcolm, but she's never been brave enough to say so. And then she's heartbroken when it seems that he's met the love of his life, who is somebody else, and Malcolm, her friend, invites her on a weekend getaway, and she decides it's her last chance to show him exactly what he's overlooking. But then she ends up maybe liking another guy instead, and this kind of like love interest swap, when it's done well, it's one of my favorite tropes. So I'm really excited for that. I did read a different book by Claire Kann, which was Let's Talk About Love, which I liked. I had some mixed feelings about it, but I liked it enough that I'm still really excited for this one. Then on April 14th, I have A Beauty and the Beast retelling. That is The Language of Roses by Heather Rose Jones, and my friend Huck from Badger Reads is the one who told me about this one because I hadn't heard of it, so I'm very excited. And I believe that this is a retelling. This might also have an asexual main character actually, and I think she might be aromantic as well. And it's about how like if she has to break the curse by falling in love and she doesn't have romantic feelings for people, how is that going to work? I think it focuses on a sister relationship as well. So I just think this sounds really wonderful. I believe this is by an indie author and I can't wait for it. Then on April 19th, I have The Unknown Beloved by Amy Harmon. She's an author that I have really enjoyed before, and she's kind of becoming one of those authors where like I think she can do things that I don't always like, and I will enjoy them in her books. Like not that I'll read everything she writes. There's a few books of hers that I'm not interested in, but I'm willing to take chances on things I might not with other authors. Like this is set in 1920s Chicago, which is not a setting or time period that necessarily interests me, and it also sounds like it'll be a little bit of a noir, which is not something I tend to like, but this just sounds really interesting. I feel like you can even read it in that kind of like noir style. It's like Chicago, 1923. 10-year-old Danny Flanagan returns home to find police swarming the house, her parents dead. Michael Malone, see his name even sounds like a noir name, the young patrolman assigned to the case, discovers there's more to the situation and to Danny Flanagan herself than the authorities care to explore. Malone is told to shut his mouth, and Danny is sent away to live with her spinster aunts in Cleveland. And then it says that 15 years later there's a series of murders that has everybody stumped, and Michael ends up working along with Danny to like solve these cases. It seems like there's a serial killer in Cleveland, and it says that Malone is drawn to Danny and her affinity for the dead and compassion for the destitute. It doesn't take long for him to realize that she could help him solve his case. As terror descends on the city and Malone and Danny confront the dark secrets that draw them together, it's a race to find the killer or risk becoming his next victims. So I just think it sounds really interesting. Again, this is like a combination of things that I wouldn't always be interested in, but I feel like I'm gonna like this one. Then on April 19th, I have a nonfiction book that's coming out, and it looks like it is part of a series called My Theology, so it's obviously theological nonfiction, and it's called Finding God in the Universe by Guy Consolmagno. He's an author who, his books are kind of hard to find in print, but I've been really interested in reading some stuff from him for a while. One of the things he's really big on is like integrating scientific thought and also theology, and how those things do not have to be mutually exclusive, and in fact for many people are not mutually exclusive, which is something that I very much agree with. So yeah, looking forward to this one. I believe he actually works in the Vatican Observatory, so I'm really excited to see kind of his perspective on this. Then another kind of theological nonfiction also coming out on April 19th is Saints of Feather and Fang, How the Animals We Love and Fear Connect Us to God by Karen Rivadeneira. And this is basically what it sounds like. It talks about different animals and our relationships with animals, and kind of putting those in a religious context, which I just think sounds really, really interesting. I wonder if St. Francis of Assisi is going to be big on this, because he was obviously huge for animals. He's a patron saint of animals, so I don't know if that's going to be part of this book or not, but I just think this sounds like a topic I really want to read about. Also on April 19th, I have Debating Darcy by Sayantani Dasgupta. This is a contemporary novel by this author. I've read a couple of her contemporary fantasy books before and really enjoyed them. And this is a Pride and Prejudice retelling that takes place between the Lizzie and Darcy characters are like debate team competitors, I think. And that's really all I need to know. I think this sounds really good, and I'm hoping it's going to be like a rivalry that is not like toxic. Like I want it to be like Beatrice and Benedict rivalry, where it's like they respect each other even when they're competing or even when they like are fighting. So that's what I'm hoping. Also on April 19th, that's a big day, clearly, I have Queen of the Tiles by Hannah Alcoff. I really enjoyed The Girl and the Ghost, I think is the name of it, that when I read that a couple years ago. So I'm excited for this one, and it is about Scrabble, and that's really all I know about it. And it actually looks like this book is going to be dealing with grief a lot, because our main character is trying to deal with the death of her best friend, and our main character is entering a Scrabble competition for the first time after her best friend's death, who was also very big into the game. And I know that the author's other book I read was set in Malaysia. I don't know if this one is as well, but yeah, really excited for this. And it actually sounds like the death of her best friend, that there might be some mystery surrounding that as well. One that I think I talked about, but I think the release date got pushed back, so I won't spend too much time on it, but that is Ordinary Equality, The Fearless Women and Queer People Who Shaped the U.S. Constitution and the Equal Rights Amendment by Kate Kelly, illustrated by Nicole LaRue. This got pushed back to April 26th is when it's coming out, but I'm still very excited for it. Then also on April 26th, I have Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher. This is her first traditionally published book. T. Kingfisher is an author who I love. I have really enjoyed all the fantasy books I've read from her. I'm not going to be reading her horror, I don't think. I don't think I could handle that, but I really, really love her fantasy. And I'm just so excited she's getting published by Tor. Like, that's amazing. Yeah, so very excited for this one. After years of seeing her sister suffer at the hands of an abusive prince, Mara, the shy, convent-raised third-born daughter, has finally realized that no one is coming to their rescue. No one, except for Mara herself. Seeking help from a powerful grave witch, Mara is offered the tools to kill a prince, if she can complete 3 impossible tasks. But, as is the way in tales of princes, witches, and daughters, the impossible is only the beginning. On her quest, Mara is joined by the Grave Witch, a reluctant fairy godmother, a strapping former knight, and a chicken possessed by a demon. Together, the 5 of them intend to be the hand that closes around the throat of the prince and frees Mara's family and their kingdom from its tyrannous rule at last. I just think that sounds really interesting. Again, I'm just so excited that T. Kingfisher is getting some of the attention that she deserves. So I'm excited that her first traditionally published book is coming out. And again, that is April 26th. Then on, let's see, April 28th, or I think the US publication is May 3rd, but I'm going to be getting the UK edition, which is on April 28th. And that is Elektra by Jennifer Saint. I have not yet read Ariadne. I own it. I haven't read it, but I am so sure I'm going to like it that I'm very excited for this one as well. So it deals with Clytemnestra, Cassandra, Princess of Troy, and Elektra, the youngest daughter of Clytemnestra and Agamemnon, who are 3 women that I just really, really love them, and I feel like they, not only in the original stories, they get the short end of the stick, but even in retellings, like, I don't feel like they often get their due. So, yeah, I can't wait to read this one. I hope that it doesn't go the route of Clytemnestra being, like, completely horrible, because she does some really horrible things, but, like, I think there's context there that is important, so I'm hoping that the retelling, like, acknowledges that. So yeah, very excited for that one, even though I haven't read the other book by this author, it's fine. Okay, and then moving on to May, I need to speed this up. I've been talking for way too long already. I have We Are the Song by Catherine Bakewell. This is a book that involves, like, singing magic, which is something that I find really interesting. I feel like I'm pretty picky about how music is used in fantasy, but when I like it, I really like it. So it's our main character who has the ability to heal with her music, like with her songs. But then she ends up being very far from home, trying to figure out how she should use her abilities, who she can trust. It sounds like her music tutor is not somebody she can trust. It says she will have to develop the judgment to decide who wants to use her song to heal and who wants to use her song to hurt. And that one is on May 3rd. I think that sounds really good. Then I have a re-release. I think this counts as a new release because it's been, like, teased for a long time, I feel like, and it's finally coming out. The re-release of Alcatraz versus the Evil Librarians by Brandon Sanderson, illustrations by Haley Lazo. This is a middle grade adventure series that like it's about like evil librarians. I have really enjoyed what I've read from Brandon Sanderson so far. I know he's a very hyped author, but I have gotten on really well with most of his books. And this one just sounds super fun, so I'm glad that we are finally getting the like new editions that we were promised. And yeah, the first one in that re-release comes out May 3rd. Then also on May 3rd, I have a nonfiction book that is The Wonders We Seek, 30 Incredible Muslims Who Helped Shape the World by Sadia Faruqi, Anisa Mumtaz, and illustrated by Safa Khan. I love these kind of like multi-nonfiction books that really focus on like important people from history, overlooked people from history, that often combine that with really beautiful art. I just really like that kind of style, so I'm always happy to read more of those. Obviously it's going to be focusing on specifically Muslim people who made a huge difference in the world, and I just think this looks really fantastic. I have read one of Sadia Faruqi's books and really enjoyed it, and I'm very excited for this one as well. Then I actually have a book that I have already read. I was fortunate enough to be able to read an arc, so you'll hear about this in probably my March wrap-up, I think. But on May 3rd, there is The Ghosts of Rose Hill by R.M. Romero coming out. I really loved her previous book, which was The Dollmaker of Krakow. That was really fantastic. And this is a novel in verse, and it is set in Prague. And it follows a biracial Jewish girl who's also Latinx, and I feel like we don't get... Like, there's a lot of, like, Latinx Jewish people, and I feel like we don't get a lot of stories about them. So this main character, she's really passionate about music, but her parents want her to do something more, like, marketable with her life. And then over the summer, she visits, I think it's her aunt in Prague, and she ends up spending the summer, like, restoring and taking care of this forgotten Jewish cemetery. And she ends up meeting the ghost of a boy named Benjamin. And then there's also this other person who is offering Alana, the main character, the chance to use her music and to pursue her passion and to like be appreciated and all of that, but he does not have the best intentions. And yeah, it's hard to talk about anticipated releases that you've already read, I feel like, but I really loved this one. I really liked the writing. I loved the emphasis on history. There is also a lot about Ilana's Jewish faith and identity and how that influences her life. I think the plot itself was like really engaging. I liked Benjamin. I thought their dynamic was super interesting. Like, I just really loved this book, so highly recommend keeping an eye out for it. And again, you will hear more about it in my March wrap-up. I don't know when this anticipated releases video is going up, so maybe you've already heard about it. Then on May 3rd as well, I have Ballad and Dagger by Daniel Jose Older. This is the first book in the Outlaw Saints series. I know very little about this. This is apparently a music and magic-filled YA urban fantasy about two teens who discover each other and their powers during a political battle within a diaspora community. All of that sounds fantastic. I have read a book by Daniel Jose Older before that I really enjoyed, and this just, like, there's a whole long synopsis that I'm not going to get into, but it sounded interesting, so that one's on my list too. I told you guys that the amount of detail is going to vary widely, so you knew what you were getting into. Then, when does this come out? Also on May 3rd, I have The Murder of Mr Wickham by Claudia Gray, which is a book I have been so excited for since I heard the title, which also cracks me up every time I think about it, because like the suspect list would be like the entire cast of Pride and Prejudice, right? Like, everybody could be a suspect. But this is a murder mystery that involves different Jane Austen characters. I think it actually involves a lot of different casts of characters from her books, and I just think this sounds fantastic. I believe I will actually be getting a review copy of this one, so you will be hearing my thoughts soonish. Yeah, I can't wait. I'll put on the screen if I know when my review will be going up, but I am so excited for this one. Also on May 3rd is The Marvelers by Danielle Clayton. I really enjoyed the first book in the Bells series, and I want to read more things from her. This is a middle grade fantasy series that I believe is set at a magic school. I won't get into too much detail here because I, again, didn't need to know that much. I already know I really like her writing, and yeah, just this sounds really good. Then on May 10th, I have Wild Seed Witch by Marty Dumas, and this is the first book in a series, it looks like, and also just beautiful cover. So our main character is a young girl who ends up going to a literal charm school, Les Belles Demoiselles. Here, generations of young ladies from old money witch families have learned to harness their magic, and alumnae grow to become some of the most powerful women across industries, including politicians, philanthropists, CEOs, entrepreneurs, and yes, even social media influencers. Needless to say, admission to the school is highly coveted, very exclusive, and Hassani sticks out like a weed in a rose bouquet. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums it up. I love the setup for this. I love the idea of this like charm school and all of that, and it looks like it's going to be about our main character trying to find her place at this really fancy finishing school because it feels like she doesn't feel like she really fits in. And she also is a wild seed, which is a stray witch from a family of non-witches with no background knowledge, no way to control her magic, and a lot to catch up on. So I just think that's going to be really interesting, and again, gorgeous cover. Then on May 10th, I have Breathe and Count Back from 10 by Natalia Sylvester. This is a contemporary following a main character who is Peruvian, or Peruvian American, I should say, named Veronica, and she has had many surgeries to manage her disability. I think it's hip dysplasia, I believe, and she really wants to audition to be part of like this mermaid underwater show. She lives in Florida and it's like a big attraction, but her parents don't want to let her do it. It also looks like she has a crush on one of her cute new neighbors, and this just sounds really great. I really loved Running by this author. I think that was a really thoughtful contemporary, and I think this one sounds great as well. On May 17th, I have Bloomsbury Girls by Natalie Jenner. This is another book I actually should be getting a review copy for, so you will be hearing my thoughts pretty soon. But I can't wait for this. It's about Bloomsbury Books, and I think it's about the first women to be hired. I believe this is like the post-war period, like around 1950. So like, you know, bookshops, feminism, female friendship, like I'm so excited. This sounds perfect. Then on May 31st, I have Speech and Debacles by Heather DeAngelis. This is a contemporary that I believe is like a speech and debate team. It involves a speech and debate team. And our main character is a girl who has, I believe somebody said it was, let's see, endometriosis representation, which I don't think I've ever read before. She gets like really severe cramps as part of that, and it starts affecting her ability to like participate in things like school and like the debate team and everything. And then it sounds like our male main character might suffer from some kind of anxiety or something like that. So he's dealing with some things as well, and I just think this sounds really interesting. And it also has queer rep. I believe our main female character is bisexual. Then on May 31st, I have a sequel that is Tokyo Dreaming by Emiko Jean. This is the sequel to Tokyo Ever After, which I read last year, and I know that one got pretty mediocre reviews, but I really liked it. I really liked the character development and the focus on family and like fitting in and like having multiple places that you call home. I just think all of that was really great. The romance was kind of like, for me. So if this book develops that more, I think that'll be, I think that'll work for me. But yeah, I really liked the first book, so I am excited for this one. On May 31st, I have Out of the Blue by Jason June, and I don't know a lot about this except like queer mermaids. And I think it's like a contemporary, like it's a contemporary with like the fantasy elements with mermaids. So yeah, I think that sounds really great. I think it's also going to deal with like ecology. And then finally, the last one I have for May is Together We Burn by Isabel Ibanez. This is a separate book from like her other series, which I took off my TBR because I heard some really not great things about like the representation of like indigenous peoples in those books. So I'm hoping that she's like taken that into account and she is like not doing that in this book, because I mentioned that I might try something else from her. And so this is like a completely separate thing. I think it involves dragons maybe, and also flamenco dancing. Maybe it's just called the Dragon Guild and there's not actual dragons. I'm not really sure. The premise, when I read it, oh no, there are dragons. I'm sorry, this is all over the place. I'm just gonna read the bottom of the synopsis. It says, an ancient city plagued by dragons, a flamenco dancer determined to save her ancestral home, a dragon hunter refusing to teach her his ways. They don't want each other, but they need each other, and without him, her world will burn. I think that sounds really great. So again, I'm hoping that this doesn't have the same problems as the other series, but yeah, looking forward to hearing what people think of that one and maybe trying it. And then finally into June, I don't have very many, so I'll probably be adding to this as the year goes on. But I don't have very many books for June, thankfully. So we're almost at the end. I say thankfully, but like it is really a good thing to have so many anticipated releases, right? So June 7th, I have Those Summer Nights by Laura Silverman. So this is a contemporary, I think set during the summer, at like an entertainment multiplex, and then our main character also ends up like her ex-best friend comes back, so that causes some problems. Also her brother's best friend, it says, who became unreasonably attractive in her year away and who accepts her even knowing her worst secrets. Under the neon lights of Bonanza, that's the name of the multiplex, Hannah must decide whether she can find a way to discover a new self in the midst of her old life. Yeah, so I just think this sounds really good. It sounds like we're going to be finding out about like what are these bad things that happened that like led her to, it says they landed her at a boarding school for a year. I should have just read the part at the beginning because I think that sums it up. After recovering from a life-changing injury, a teen girl must navigate a new summer job, an ex-best friend, and two surprisingly attractive co-workers in this romp of a rom-com for fans of Jenny Han and Siobhan Vivian. Then on June 7th, I have a mystery, I know, very different for me, The Woman in the Library by Sulari Gentle. This is a locked room mystery set in a library. And that's really all I need to know about it. I just think that sounds interesting. Again, I don't read a ton of mysteries, but this is one that kind of piqued my interest. Then on June 7th, I have Spineless by Samantha San Miguel. It says, this exciting middle grade adventure is hoot for the Gilded Age, with scientific discoveries, secret plots, and surprisingly enormous fauna. Yeah, that's all I really want to know. Like, I like the Gilded Age like time period for historical fiction or fantasy. And I really enjoyed Hoot when I read that when I was much younger. I like that it's going to focus on like preservation of species. I like the idea of the setting. I just think this sounds really interesting. And I also think that cover is very interesting. Then on June 14th, I have a sequel that is The Midnight Orchestra by Jessica Corey. This is the second book in the Mistwick series, which, if you guys remember a few years ago when I read that book, I really enjoyed it. It's like magic, like music is used as magic. And one of the things I said when I finished it is that it feels like this could be a series. Like, I just loved the world that Jessica Corey created and the different ways people would use magic, like music magic. And we are getting a sequel. I can't wait. I don't even know what it's about, but I'm definitely going to read it. Then one that I'm kind of tentative about, on June 14th, is Rise of the Vicious Princess by CJ Redwine. There's like this whole like summary, obviously, and I do think it sounds interesting, but it might involve a couple tropes I'm not as much of a fan of, but for some reason I just have this vibe that I'm interested in it. So it sounds like a very political fantasy. There's like some forbidden love, might also be a, like, I think the main character disguises herself as a smuggler and roams the sea, which I don't like pirate books or ship books, so we'll see how that goes, but I just think it sounds interesting. I'm willing to try it. Then probably one of my most anticipated releases, I have a graphic novel on June 21st, and that is the third in the new, like, redone graphic novel series for Artemis Fowl. So this is The Eternity Code. I love this series. I love these new graphic novels, so this was a very easy addition to my list, but yeah, very excited for this. Then on June 28th, I have The Song That Moves the Sun by Anna Bright. I really enjoyed her Beholder duology overall. There were a couple of things I wish had happened differently, but like, I really liked her writing and the story and everything. So I'm excited to read something else by her. At one time I knew what this book was about. It looks like this might be a like contemporary fantasy or like some kind of portal fantasy. One of those fantasies where it's like you're in the regular world and then you find out there's magic. So I'm just intrigued. There's gonna be like, looks like a couple of different romance subplots. Sorry, this is another one where I'm just leaving you to your own devices if you would like to read the synopsis for that one. And then finally, the last book I'm going to talk about comes out on June 28th. That is This Vicious Grace by Emily Theede. The synopsis starts out with 3 weddings, 3 funerals. Alessa's gift from the gods is supposed to magnify a partner, not kill every suitor she touches. Like, what a way to start off a premise. I think that sounds super interesting. It sounds like our main character has to like find somebody to marry in order to prevent this destruction. It says, with only weeks left until a hungry swarm of demons devours everything on her island home, Alessa is running out of time to find a partner and stop the invasion. She ends up hiring Dante, a cynical outcast marked as a killer, to become her personal bodyguard. So I think we know what's going to happen there, but I just think this sounds really, really interesting. Okay, everybody, so I feel like I was talking even faster than usual, so I apologize for that, but I had a lot to cover. Those are some of the books I am most excited about that are coming out in April, May, and June of 2022, at least if that's what their dates say right now. Also, there are other books I'm looking forward to, but I had to like narrow it down as much as I could. But yeah, let me know if you are looking forward to any of these, if there's any you hadn't heard of that sound good. Let me know a book that you're really excited about that's coming out. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you soon with another video, and I hope you love the next book you read. Bye!